Lesson 2-1, the Niger River, Ecosystems and Trade Routes in Africa. This lesson explores the history of the Niger River Valley and highlights the trans-Saharan caravan trade and the cities of Genet and Timbuktu. When thinking of places like West Africa, it's easy to conjure up images of mounds and mounds of sand with no vegetation in sight. Although this picture of a sandy ecosystem is rather true, there's also the Niger River Valley, which doesn't fit this description. Quite the opposite, actually. It's a fertile area of land created by the Niger River of West Africa. Since the Niger River Valley is inseparable from the Niger River, let's take just a few moments and familiarize ourselves with this massive river. Squeaking into the top 15 of the world's longest rivers, the Niger River is about 2,600 miles long. It begins in the modern-day area of Guinea and runs east through countries like Mali, Niger, and Nigeria. This massive river and its river valley, the subject of our lesson, defined much of West African history during the 12th through 16th centuries. For starters, the waters of the Niger River have provided both the past and the present of West Africa with an arable ecosystem, with arable meaning suitable for growing crops and ecosystem meaning the sum of the biological and physical characteristics of an area. This simply means that the Niger River gave the people of West Africa a place where they could live and water their animals. This put the area at a huge advantage over the other areas of West Africa that were arid, or filled with sand dunes and too dry to support vegetation. With this huge advantage, the area surrounding the Niger River was able to become a bustling thoroughfare for trade across the region. Of course, this trade system was not at all what we modernized Westerners think of as trade. There were no interstates making their way across the desert. Instead, trade was accomplished by caravans of merchants trekking across the hot desert. This trade system has come to be known as the Trans-Saharan Caravan Trade, in which merchants travel by caravan across the Sahara Desert. As most of us know from watching movies, these merchants usually chose the camel as their mode of transportation. After all, camels can carry lots of weight and they can go quite a long time on just a little bit of water. However, even camels need to stop for water sometimes. Enter the area of the Niger River Valley. Sort of like our modern-day rest stops, this fertile ecosystem provided a perfect place for weary travelers to rest and replenish. However, it didn't just offer a place of rest. The Niger River Valley was a place where merchants could meet and swap their goods. When speaking of important trading cities along the Niger River, most sources will cite the cities of Timbuktu and Genet. Although today not as well known as Timbuktu, Genet was the first noteworthy trading center of the region. Here, merchants of the Trans-Saharan caravan trade swapped things like grains, salt, and dried fish for gold. As well as being a center for trade along the Trans-Saharan caravan route, Genet was also famous for its production of iron. This thriving city of trade and iron production was soon joined by other trading posts in the region, the most famous of which was Timbuktu. By the 12th century, Timbuktu had become a permanent trading settlement, and by the 15th century, it had joined Genet as one of the most important cities of the Trans-Saharan caravan trade. Here again, merchants from the north would bring things like salt and silk in hopes of trading for gold. Unfortunately for both these cities, their fame and wealth waned as Europeans began seeking ways to sail around Africa instead of having to travel through it. Adding to this, when the Americas started supplying gold to the rest of the world, the lively trade within Africa was eclipsed. Sadly for the region of West Africa, these two things dealt it an economic blow from which it never recovered, and many of the once bustling cities along the Niger River were left to poverty. Let's review. The Niger River Valley is a fertile area of land created by the Niger River of West Africa. Amid the arid sands of West Africa, which are too dry to support vegetation, the Niger River Valley is an arable ecosystem, with arable meaning suitable for growing crops and ecosystem meaning the sum of the biological and physical characteristics of an area. This river valley supplied a place for life and trade to flourish. The trade routes that evolved along the Niger River Valley have come to be known as the Trans-Saharan Caravan Trade, a system of routes on which merchants travel by caravan across the Sahara Desert. Due to its ecosystem being suitable for trade and vegetation, several important cities came to life in the Niger River Valley. Two of these were Genet and Timbuktu. Genet was one of the first noteworthy trading centers of the region. It was also famous for its iron production. Timbuktu was another major city in the region. By the 15th century, it had also become one of the most important cities of the Trans-Saharan caravan trade. Unfortunately for the region, the wealth of these cities waned as Europeans began sailing around Africa and as the Americas began supplying gold to the world.